Welcome to Let's Be Well Together podcast. We're your wellness check-in team. Join us each week or when you can. We enjoy exploring wellness concepts and reminding you to make time for wellness. This is episode 160.
Welcome to another week of Let's Be Well Together podcast. My name is Isabelle Sinclair, and I'm joined by John Webster here today. What would you like to talk about?
Well, first of all, it's great to see you. We haven't had any chats in a little while, so it's nice to reconnect. And I know you love reading, and at some point I'm going to ask you about Virginia Woolf, but I just want to generally talk about, I've really been doing a lot of reading of fiction in the last while and talk a lot about it. And I want to chat about some ways you think that reading books enhances our wellness and our artistic wellness.
I think for me, the biggest thing that comes out from reading is deconnecting from social media and just being online. I find it such a great way to just be present in my own life. It also allows me to connect more with like my inner world, that being my thoughts and my feelings. I also feel like it inspires creativity in my own personal life. I'm not sure if you feel the same way.
Well, a few things. I definitely get lots of really neat ideas, and I just like reading about people's experiences. I like fiction books. Yeah. And I do like books where people are like going through something, have a little bit about what they're thinking about, which I find really interesting. And some of the authors are just so amazing at putting themselves in the minds of so many different characters, and whether it's men, women, old, young, and that always impresses me. But you mentioned one thing about kind of present moment. And a long time ago, I stopped bringing my phone to the bedroom at night.
Okay.
And that was a good thing because I was able to disconnect, and I felt like I'd wake up in the middle of the night. So I broke that habit of waking up and being, I should just check on something. Then I had a little kind of old iPhone that I used just for music and stuff, and it broke. So I kind of brought my phone up because I wanted to use it for music, and I realized I'm pretty good at not looking at it still. So I still am in good shape.
Oh, that's great.
But when I started listening to audiobooks, when my mind's spinning at night, I often go to bed and then I start thinking about work, and then I start thinking about the news of the day, and my mind spins. And I'm finding that, just stop. Throw on the headphones, listen to my audiobook, and I'm swept away. And often I fall asleep while I'm reading, so I have to get up and backtrack. But it definitely takes me away from those stresses.
For sure. I also find that, like, for me personally, I remember in COVID, I read a bunch of self-help books, and I feel like when you go with the author throughout their journey, kind of like the hero's journey almost, where they kind of find themselves at the end, it helps you kind of relate to your own personal life, even if you're not going through the same problems. And I feel like that really broadens how you understand other people's perspectives, and you can take some of those bits and apply them in your own personal life as well. So I find that's a great facet of reading, in my opinion.
I think sometimes about this, and we go through our days. Imagine you're not reading at all.
Yeah.
Right. So you go through your day, and if you look at kind of an average day, you as a student, for example, you'll get up, maybe you go to the gym, maybe you go for a walk, you go to class, you go to the study in the library, you have dinner, some more studying, go to bed. If you think about the opportunities to interact and have experiences are quite limited.
For sure.
And so you're going through your days without lots of different types of experiences. But when you're reading a book, I get that you're not actually going through the experience, but you're reading about one.
Mm-hmm,
and so now you're having all these experiences, you're living through all these experiences. And how many ways does that make you grow and think differently and have ideas on how to deal with things?
For sure. It really helps you broaden your perspective. It relates to your point of repeating the same things every day. I feel like it can really make life less mundane in a sense. And it's a free way to immerse yourself in a different world and learn about new ways about doing things.
One of the things that really surprises me is I read books from 100 years ago, 200 years ago, and they're talking about the same things. For some reason, we think, oh my gosh, no one's ever had to deal with this before.
Yeah.
Wow. Those lucky guys never had to deal with this. And then you're reading about it. It's the same thing,
For sure. That's so interesting that you bring that up. I'm actually really interested in reading the classical novels. And it's very interesting how these patterns reapply themselves in contemporary times, just with a bit of different societal kind of problems surrounding them. But I guess human nature just repeats itself.
I like to read the classics too. So what my kind of groove is, I read a new book, and then maybe another, and then I go back and read a classic, and then something new and a classic. And I keep expecting all the classics to be kind of boring, like kind of stuffy. And, they just could only talk about X and Y. But they're not. They're so alive.
For sure.
Some of them are like that. Like there's some that you have to plod to get through them. But there's so many of them where you're reading about these characters and the characters are so alive.
Of course. Yeah. And it's fascinating to think that some people have gone through the same things that someone we know could be going through, just in a different context. It's really interesting to read about.
Yeah, Sheila and I both this year recently read Tess of the D'Urbervilles. And I was expecting it to be a certain thing and it wasn't. And then I was expecting Tess to be a certain kind of woman, but she wasn't. And it was just so surprising. It led to so many amazing conversations between the two of us.
That's amazing.
So what do you like about Virginia Woolf? So I actually have now flagged a couple. There's not a lot of audiobooks on the library app that I'm using.
Yeah.
I have them flagged, but I'm always waiting and I haven't gone on the waiting list yet. But what's a Virginia Woolf book or two that you like and why do you like it?
I think my favorite Virginia Woolf book would have to be A Room of One's Own. I particularly like the way she writes about feminist themes. And I'm not sure if you've heard of this book, but essentially it's about kind of how women require financial and their own independence through, say, their husbands or family in order to participate in the literary canon. And basically, she just kind of writes in the perspective of how, women have so much to say and contribute to society and how it could help the literary canon, but some things historically have prevented their voices from being heard. So I feel like that was a really good book. And I actually read it through a Waterloo class. So super interesting to hear the professor's perspectives on it. And I feel like I otherwise would never have read or heard about that book. So that was really impactful for me and made me read more into her work. I also really like her stream of consciousness narrative. Essentially, she just writes in the perspective of the character, and you can kind of gauge what their inner world is going through, kind of ranging from their thoughts and emotions. And you feel like you're in the character's head, which is something I've never kind of immersed myself into. It took a bit to get used to and to kind of clock what was going on. But I feel like that was something I've never read about in a book. So that was super interesting. And she really stands out to me as an author that way.
Believe it or not, after we last talked, I did read that one.
Nice.
Yeah, a room of One's Own. And there was a really good introduction to it too that talked about kind of the context within which she wrote it. So that was good. I think it was a lecture series or something to that effect.
Long essay, I believe.
Right. And what about, does she have fiction that you like?
I'm not entirely sure. Oh, actually, yes, there is. There's a novel called To the Lighthouse.
Right, right. That's another one I have flagged, but I haven't read yet.
Yeah, that one was, I don't know, just the way she writes, it kind of just it's almost, what's the word? She evokes imagery in my head that I don't really get from other authors, and I can just really see the setting. I don't know what her magic is, but I really love reading her books.
It's really hard to pick a favorite author for me.
Yeah.
And if I had to pick, it would be Dostoevsky, because a couple of his books are phenomenal. Brothers Karamazov and Crime and Punishment. I haven't read them in decades, but they just were so meaningful to me when I read them. Now that's a book where there's sections you really have to plow through that are hard to plow through at times. But I don't know, I just really connect with him kind of as a philosopher and as a thinker, and the questions he asks. I'm not sure I agree with everything he says. It's just that, I don't know, I just connect with him. And then I really, really enjoyed Les Miserables too. So maybe some of these really long books I like at times, but I like all kinds of books, but those ones really stand out to me in kind of classics.
That's amazing. Crime and Punishment's on my to read list. So I'm super excited to read about that.
It's a really great book if you like to think about philosophy stuff. Mm-hmm. It's just a really interesting story.
That one's a thick one, right?
It's not too bad, actually. It's much smaller compared to Brothers Karamazov, which, by the way, I have right here because sometimes I like to have my laptop propped up when I'm having these conversations, and it's really thick. Yeah. So it's one of the 3 or 4 big thick books I have here just to prop my computer.
No way.
Yeah. But maybe I need to read it one of these days. But I like Les Mis, for example, on the Libby app. it's always available because it's like 56 hours, right? And nobody's like, I can read a 56-hour book in 2 weeks. So it's always available. Okay, well, I love reading. You love reading. Got anything next on your list?
Let's think. I'm currently reading a book called Find Me, and it's the second book to the Call Me by Your Name series. I initially watched the movie, and I don't know, like that movie is gonna stick with me for the rest of time. It's set in Italy, and the score is just amazing. So I'm about to read that. So looking forward to that. Are you reading anything at the moment?
Yes, I'm reading the second. So I like a lot of either post-apocalyptic or kind of fantasy books where it's always like, usually like the young female lead and, you know, she's in love with someone and it's crazy stuff happening. So there's a series called Graceling by Kristen Kishore. And I read Graceling, really liked it. And I'm just finishing her second book, Fire.
Nice.
So, and then after I'm done either this or this series, I'll go back. And actually recently I read Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson, which is a kid's book.
Yeah.
And it reminded me, hey, not just classics. I should go back and read some kind of classic kids books, like things like
That's so fun.
Alice in Wonderland and Winnie the Pooh. So I'm going to be reading some of those in the next few months too.
Oh, that's so fun.
I like kind of mixing it up. All right. Well, it was a great chat. Hope other people enjoy reading too. And that's it for now. Guests are giving their time, expanding our minds. Today's interview is in the category of physical wellness, strengthening, conditioning, physio training, recovering. They require physical effort, but what about beliefs? How do your beliefs fit in? We're chatting with Tom Swales about this. Welcome, Tom.
Oh, thanks for having me, John.
Tom Swales earned his Bachelor of Arts in Athletic Training and later completed his Master's of Physiotherapy at the University of Western Ontario. He secured advanced certifications in areas like manual therapy, strength and conditioning, acupuncture, and neurology. And Tom's expertise is highly sought after by health professionals looking to improve their practice in areas like injury prevention, rehabilitation, and performance training. He's a trusted clinician and mentor in orthopedic healthcare. He's the founder of the Advanced Movement Therapist, AMT certification, and he's passionate about empowering health professionals with practical, results-driven education. So, Tom, you told me that belief systems are important when it comes to training or healing our bodies. So let's talk about that. And just for some context, to what extent do you see the body as a system?
So to answer your first question with regarding to beliefs, with every interaction, a patient comes into us, they're in pain, they're not able to do the things that they can do. They've had surgery, they've seen other professionals saying, this is your diagnosis, this is your dysfunctional that, and your disease this. And they come in with this belief that they're broken. They come in with this belief that they can't do certain things because either they're afraid to do it or they've been told that they can never do it again. And that in itself does such a disservice because now, instead of telling people what they can do, now they're focused on what they can't do. And that just perpetuates more dysfunction, more disability, which then deconditions the body down the road. And once we've deconditioned, it's harder to get back what we've lost. When people are coming in and they're like, well, I was told I can never run again. I said, well, you can walk. Yeah, I can walk. Okay, great. Can you squat? Yeah, I can squat. Okay, well, we can do things to make you stronger. We don't have to run, but if your goal is to run again, we just have to make you strong to run. Or maybe we just modify it in a way that is better suited to you. I always tell my clients, your beliefs come before your ability. Before you can always do something, you can see it in your head. You see yourself doing it. So if you can see yourself doing it, well, you've already kind of preset your biology, your nervous system, your psychology that, okay, well, we have this end goal. Now we just have to reverse engineer how we're going to get there. And if they see that they can do it, well, now they're motivated that, okay, I see that I can do this thing. So now I just got to find the route and the best way to do it for myself so that I don't hurt myself. This is where the health professional and the coaches, they all come in to show the clients, hey, okay, your body's not working this way, but it's working pretty good over here. So we're just going to take this route. And then we're going to circle about in a way that will eventually get to this endpoint. We just have to find what's the best way for you. So changing people's beliefs in what they can't do to what they can do, or their perspective, is kind of the first step to getting them on the right path to where they want to go, whether it's eliminating pain or improving function or getting to a higher level of performance.
And do you find that most people come in with that kind of negative mentality that, oh, I can't do X or Y, what can I do?
A lot. And it's, it's frustrating from our perspective, and we're guilty at it as well. We're taught in our formal education to, use diagnoses, and diagnoses are good because it helps us communicate, so that if I'm communicating to another professional, hey, here's this person's condition, here's a diagnosis, I don't have to sit there and explain it. I can say the 2-3 fancy words and they're like, oh, okay, I know what that is. But the patients can start to catastrophize a little bit on these diagnoses, and then they start to become their diagnosis. It becomes part of their personality and who they are. So once they start to draw attachment to that diagnosis, it's very hard for them to let go of that, because, well, if I get better, well, who am I? Because I've had this thing for so long. I can't let this go because I won't know who I am. So when we are using language with our clients, and not just the language from a verbal perspective, but body language and even what we don't say, it has a tremendous impact on a person's psychology. And psychology is that first pillar that we need to kind of break through to help anybody help heal their body, or get their body moving in the right direction, past their pain into the greater function to become strong again and capable. So we need to be careful with what we say as professionals and not get caught in the diagnosis, because people will also get caught in their own diagnosis, which will be a huge limiting factor to their progress.
There's some people who are able to be positive even in those situations. Have you ever had an experience where somebody comes in who you kind of expect would have that, I can't do this attitude, but they're like, you know what? I'm told this, but I'm going to find a way forward. And if so, are they able to start working on the problem in a faster way, or are they able to heal faster?
Well, the first step, that's the reason why they're there. That's the reason why they're seeking help. They need to find a solution to their problem. And either they've seeked out help before and they didn't get the solution that they wanted. It didn't make sense. Maybe it wasn't explained to them. Maybe for whatever reason, it didn't work. So now they're trying to find that one expert to help better explain what happened to them, why it happened, how they can get better, and then what they can do to prevent it from coming back. Because it's usually those, like the why it happened and the what can I do. Those are the two things that are often missed on the back end of treatment. It's easy to diagnose something. We have all these special tests, but it doesn't explain why that happened in the first place. Somebody comes in with a rotator cuff tear. You have this partial thickness tear and da-da-da-da. Okay, great. But why did that happen? Unless you're a baseball pitcher, an overhead athlete where you're creating this repetitive stress and you didn't load it properly, it doesn't make sense. Well, is it nerve issue? Is it neck? Is it ribs? Is it breathing? Like, what other parts of the body are not distributing forces effectively to unload the shoulder? Because most of the time the shoulders move pretty good. It's the parts around it that aren't contributing to the support of the shoulder. And all of a sudden we cause an overuse and a micro tear, and then eventually a full thickness tear over time. We need to do a better job at educating the client so that they feel empowered, so that also if they start to feel their pain again, they know exactly what to do. They don't need to come into our office to rely on us to help them with their pain or their problems.
And if I turn things back a bit to beliefs, in your experience, if I have either negative or positive belief, does that have any kind of actual physical impact on me? Does it affect either my nervous system or my muscles or my ability to do the exercises that are recommended? Yeah.
I like Joe Dispenza's quote, where you put your attention is where you put your energy. So if I have these positive thoughts, they create these frequencies, these neurochemicals into my brain. It affects my nervous system. It affects my biology, my chemistry, and inevitably it affects my physics, which is the physical body. So if you think in the terms of physics, well, a thought is a specific frequency that's affecting matter, which is the cells and the human being. And if I have this positive frequency, everything in my body is going to move and shift in the right direction. It's going to shift in the state of healing. It's going to shift in the state of well-being. If I have negative thoughts, that's a lower frequency, and that's going to turn my cells the wrong direction into more inflammation, more pain, your thoughts become matter, because matter is created from energy. And if you think about what a thought is, it's a form of energy in the shape of frequency or vibration. So our thoughts affect matter, and our matter will affect our thoughts. So going from a positive mindset to a negative, or a negative to a positive, does have a tremendous impact on somebody's ability to heal or move forward. Chronic pain is one of those, it's very complex, but the mindset of people who have more of a positive outlook will have far less pain than somebody who has a negative outlook. And those who victimize, or, I'll use the car accident example, where the person who causes the car accident, they are almost 100% where any injuries they have, they will be gone. They will have no pain. The person who was the victim, or on the receiving end of the car accident, their likelihood of chronic pain goes up tenfold, because there can be a shift of blame on that other person. That person hurt me, so therefore I'm in the situation that I'm in, and they can't let that go. And it's not that the body hasn't healed, because oftentimes the body's very good at healing. It heals the tissue, but the mental, emotional trauma, or the charge that's left with that blame on that other person, can't be let go. So therefore the pain will never dissipate.
That's really interesting, and I can see how that would work. So imagine I come to get some help from you, and I'm stuck in a negative loop. What are the kind of practical things you've found that either I can do or you can help direct me on to help me turn a negative attitude towards a more positive one?
One of it's setting up your environment, both internal and external. The example that I often use is if you can't play piano and I scream at you to play piano, are you going to play piano? Probably not, right? If you have a spouse and you ever try to tell them to calm down when they're upset, does that ever work?
Nope.
That's a horrible idea. Never do that. So rather than tell clients, hey, you just need to relax, that's not going to happen. But if I can give them some strategies to go through their body to affect the mind, such as breath work, such as mobility work, eye exercises, anything that I can affect their neurology to shift their nervous system into more of a healing state, a rest and digest state, well, it takes them down out of that fight or flight. So simple strategies going through the body, through the nervous system, can help calm the mind. So simple breath work of just, a 3-second inhale with a 6-second exhale, that's automatically going to shift their heart rate and blood pressure to start coming down. It's going to shift their nervous system to be more parasympathetic. So now their thoughts are going to be less racing. And because they now are focusing on breathing, they can less focus on any of the discomfort that they're feeling in their body, or the negative thoughts that are occurring.
Yeah. So it sounds like it's maybe not intuitive for something like me if I came in, but that you actually have practical ways to help me work my way through that. Now, a different question. You mentioned something when we were setting this up, a feedback loop. Can you tell me about that? What is a feedback loop?
So a feedback loop, we use movement and muscle testing as our feedback loop. And a feedback loop it's a guide to know if we're going in the right direction. The neat thing with the nervous system is it's this go, no-go system. Meaning when it likes something, the nervous system's constantly scanning the environment for threats, it's looking for comfort, it's trying to avoid pain. So it's always trying to gauge the environment. Okay, is this a safe environment? Yes or no? Do I like this? Yes or no? Do I like this person? Yes or no? So it's kind of got it's this go, no-go system, and it's like an on-off switch. When we are using language, words, we're applying inputs to the body. Anything's an input. And temperature, words spoken, manual therapy, whatever it is, everything's an input. The nervous system's determining whether, do I like this? Yes or no? And if it likes something, if it feels safe with something, it relaxes. It takes the brakes off. All of a sudden, movement and mobility improve. Muscles turn back on because the nervous system becomes more organized. If it doesn't like something, if it feels threatening from a word spoken or a misplaced needle that goes in or a manipulation that kind of set off the nervous system is going to go into that fight or flight protect, and it's going to lock things down. It's going to hit the brakes. It's going to protect and guard the organism. When we're talking about feedback loops, a feedback loop is simply, did we cause a change in the nervous system in a positive direction? Yes or no? And if we went in the right direction where the nervous system organized, muscle power output went up, movement went up, balance got better, okay, great. The nervous system liked that. But if we did something that it didn't like, it's going to kind of disorganize the nervous system and reduce motor output and tighten up muscles to protect and guard, and maybe, throw the balance off a little bit. So this is what we're talking about with feedback loops. And feedback loops help us know if we're effective with what we're doing. Anytime I do an intervention, I always measure stuff. Can you touch your toes? Can you back bend? Can you single leg balance? What's your shoulder mobility? I do an intervention and I check it again. If everything got better, I'm like, okay, that was probably the right thing. So it's guiding me. It's like, yes, you did something right. If things got worse, I'm like, okay, maybe I shouldn't have treated that spot. Maybe I need to go look someplace else. So rather than guess, I hate guessing. You can look at the body and you can start to make all these, I think I need to move that rib, or you got some muscle tone in that trap and I need to release that. If you can use feedback through movement and muscle testing, the nervous system will tell you what it wants and what it needs, and where even the type of treatment that you need. You can do something simple as tractioning the neck, and all of a sudden straight leg raise goes up. You compress the neck, straight leg raise gets worse. Okay, we need to create space in the neck, right? So I just asked the nervous system, someone coming in with neck pain, do you want stability or do you need mobility? And if I do traction, I'm like, okay, we need to create some space in here. So rather than kind of guess what the person needs, I'm just asking the nervous system through a feedback loop of movement, what do you want me to do?
So if I come in and I have a certain condition, you'll think, well, okay, let me try this intervention, probably makes sense. Let me try it first. You do it, you do the feedback loop. Doesn't look great. Well, let me try this other one. And eventually you get to start to find out about me personally and how things work. Yeah.
But you also do as well, because now the patient felt the difference. I don't move people's limbs. I want them to move it. Because I ask, does that feel harder, easier, or no difference? Because now they're involved. Rather than them relying on my, oh yeah, see, look, that feels better. And they're like, I think so. Right? Yeah, I guess I'll believe you. But now they truly feel a change in how they're moving. They're like, holy crap, my back pain's gone and my leg feels so much lighter. Okay, great. So now they've got buy-in and belief that what we're doing is the right thing.
We're actually getting pretty close to the end, but before I ask the question I ask every guest, a couple things. I will put some links on the show notes for people to get in touch with you. But if somebody wanted to find you on social media or your website, can you let us know how they could do that? And then secondly, is there anything else you wanted to tell us about kind of belief systems before I turn to that question?
So Instagram is swales.tom. Facebook is Tom Swales. I have a website, www.amtcertified.ca, for clinicians and coaches who want to level up their practices a bit. And then YouTube is just Tommy Swales. So lots of free content up there as well for anybody to kind of fix your ouchies and move a little bit better. So the one thing I tell my kids with regards to beliefs, when they say, I can't do this, I'm like, well, if you believe you can, you're right. And if you believe you can't, you're right. Either way, you're right. I would rather you choose that you believe you can and then find out if you can't and then make adjustments.
I'm a runner and I'm a big fan of Eliud Kipchoge, and he has this expression, no limits. And it kind of ties in with that, that's a really great way to put it. You're right. Yeah. You either can or you can't. Yeah. Which do you want?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, we are a show about wellness and we explore 8 different categories of wellness. And we ask every guest the same question in a context where we can't keep our areas of wellness going at any given time. So we do a mini wellness check-in. So Tom, are you currently neglecting an area of wellness in your life? And if so, can you think of even one thing you could do to foster wellness in that area?
Ooh, I'm going to go with kind of mindset. So I know, trying to do meditation, wake up early and do meditation every morning. I'm not doing it more than I'm doing it. And it was something that I really enjoyed, but just lately not making time for it. It's like, get up, have my coffee, read a book a little bit, and then start working. And then my kids get up and then I start, getting them ready for school. So it's that mindfulness practice, just early in the morning, resetting the mind, getting the intentions right. And I notice a difference. I do. So it's one of those, get up 30 minutes earlier and just do the thing.
Well, good luck. I mean, it is hard to find the time. It is interesting to hear that you do some reading, which I think is fantastic. I've gotten back into reading literature this year and I'm really enjoying it, actually last year. So anyway, thanks very much. It was really interesting hearing about that. And we are going to have you back again soon to talk about something else. Thanks,
Sounds
Tom.
good. Thanks, John.
We hope you're enjoying the show, and we hope you're finding ways to foster wellness in the categories that are important to you. If you like what you're hearing, head to our website, letsbewelltogether.com, and then to the archives page. It includes a quick summary of the different segments of all of our shows back to the start. Have a look and see if there's something interesting you want to listen to, and listen to one of our past episodes. It's me. Am I?
Yeah. Just let me say, flip side of the coin. So this has been a new development for me. I have decided that I need to say no more often.
It's funny you say that, because I know that when we were chatting at some point in 2022 or 2023, you talked about saying no. And I know Sammy talked about it too.
Yeah, it's hard.
So I think maybe what's new is that you're kind of re-emphasizing it again.
I think what's new is I'm actually doing it. I actually did it this last year. So that is what is new for me. And I think it's important to try and say no. And you're kind of going, well, what does that have to do with Flipside?
Well, yeah, because Flipside, it doesn't have to be, but a lot of times there's kind of relationship, whether it's our relationship, family relationship, just the fact that, or even just you seeing the world in a different way, because that's kind of what the flip side is, which is.
So for me, a lot of my no decisions have been based on our relationship, that I want more time with you, or family, that I need more time for myself, you, or family.
I think what you're saying is that whereas before you would say yes, and then that prevented you from spending time with family, like, I'm not sure, is that what you're saying?
Well, often I find that the reason why I'm saying no is it's a time. How much time do I have?
Right.
Can I do all these things? And usually the answer is yes, I can, because man, I can do so much in a day. It's absolutely crazy. Do I want to? That's a question I don't ask. Do I want to do all this? And then the other thing I often don't think about is you, or like, I try and make sure that, I think about our relationship, but we've changed our lifestyle and we're together more now after work. And I really enjoy spending time with you and having downtime as well. So I needed to keep that in perspective and just say, no, I'm sorry, I can't do that.
That all makes sense, but maybe you could just give us a couple examples. So like, what do you mean? Like saying no to what? Like, what is it that's taking your time that you're saying no to?
One is I was substitute teaching dance.
Right. And you taught dance for years. You owned a dance studio.
It's so easy for me to do. I don't even need a lot of thought to go in. I don't have to prepare a lot, but it is time. And it's nighttime work too. And often I found that it wasn't organized time. I'd get called, hey, can you work every day this week? Can you work, every Tuesday and late? And it was exhausting, but it was fulfilling. I really do enjoy dance, and I do enjoy having that opportunity.
Well, the other thing too is you don't like saying no to people.
Like, I know.
If someone needs your help, because like, for example, there might be a dance studio and they're like, Sheila, somebody's sick and I'm in a lurch. Mm-hmm. And not many people can just parachute in and do the class. Mm-hmm. You're one of the very few people who can do it. And so you think to yourself, if I don't do it, nobody can do it. So now all of a sudden it's your obligation. And
yes.
And in that context, you would often be focused on that, not considering, okay, what are my options? Mm-hmm. Who else do I have obligations to? What about myself? What about my obligations to myself?
Exactly. So I decided that I don't want to do that anymore. It's a little adding too much chaos to my life and taking up too much time. So that is something that I said no to.
Do you have another example?
Well, interestingly enough, so I do catering. And I feel really bad about saying no. So they'll send me dates and they'll be like, okay, and it'll be a bunch of dates. Can you do da-da-da-da-da? And I would always say yes to them all. And then I realized, I actually talked to the manager and said, I find it really hard. And he goes, Sheila, you're the first on my list. So when I send this to you, it's out of respect to give you the opportunity to say yes.
Oh, wow.
Once you say no, then I just go down my list and give it to other people. It's not, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so that totally changed my mindset.
It's so funny because part of the reason it's so hard to say no, I think, is because they're amazing people. Like the people you work for are great. You really enjoy doing that work.
Love it.
And they're so considerate that you want to be considerate back.
Yeah.
And what an interesting thing to hear
It
from
was.
him.
I was like, oh. So then if I say no, he just goes on the list. It's not like he's stuck. Because if he is stuck, he will text me back and say, Sheila, I'm really stuck on these 2 dates. You know?
Yeah, maybe just say that to him. Okay, well, if I say no and you are stuck, let me know.
Yeah, let me know if you're stuck.
Because I'll assume you're not.
Yeah. So that was an interesting development because you know how you said, I feel obligated that I have to do it. But you know what? I'm not the only one in the world that can do this job. I'm not the only, there are other people. So
that's a really good fit there because you really do enjoy that work. So when you do say yes, it's enriching. Mm-hmm. But when you say no, that's because you want to do something else. It's kind of like a win-win. Yeah.
But anyway, so that was just something that I've been learning and it hasn't been so bad. Like I've always been, the guilt of saying no, realizing these things. I'm like, I can say no and it's not that bad.
Well, that's wonderful because again, like I said earlier, I know that you've been talking about this for years and I get why it took years to actually start doing it. Mm-hmm. And it's nice that now that you've started doing it, it's actually working out.
Yeah, it's great.
Please remember that we're not providing advice. We hope to inspire you to work towards balance, and we urge you to consult with qualified people if you need advice. The people on the show are speaking in their personal capacities. Their views expressed are their own, and don't represent the views or opinions of their outside contacts, their employers, or anyone else. We try to get things right, but we can't guarantee everything we say is correct, or that the things we talk about will work for you. Let's be well together, and let's be sure to do that in a safe way.
And it's sign-off time. It's Sheila here with John.
Hey, Sheila.
Hi. It's a long weekend here in Ontario. We have Family Day holiday on Monday. So we have had a great time with Family Day, but we've been getting a lot of snow. Canada gets a lot of snow, but we have been non-stop getting snow. So I had an event canceled that I was supposed to be catering, and then I was going to go up to Owen Sound, which is a 2-hour drive, and that got canceled because of the snow. We couldn't even get out of our driveway on Saturday because of the snow. So we have had a lot of snow days, and we've just been kind of hunkered down and doing our thing and shoveling a lot. What about you, John?
that describes it. It's so funny. And I feel kind of frumpy, right? Because I've been kind of in pajamas most of the time for 3 days in a row. And just to give you a sense of the snow, it gets to a point. We hand shovel our driveway. It's not very big. Mm-hmm. In the past, we've had really big driveways and snow blowers, but now we just like to shovel, and it's good exercise. Mm-hmm. The snow banks are so high at the side of the driveway, like you can barely throw the snow over top of them.
Yeah, they just come right down.
Like I'm pretty sure it's taller than me. It is taller than me.
It is, definitely, yeah.
It is crazy.
Crazy.
And I've been spending a lot of time at home. I went into work a couple times last week. Even if I want to walk, it's not that convenient because you have to make sure everyone did their sidewalks. Anyway, so it's been a very unusual week. And meanwhile, I keep mentioning I have my little secret project going. I'll give you a little hint. It has something to do with music. And I'm hoping by the same time next week, I can announce what my little project is.
Yeah, you've been working really hard on that.
Yeah, a lot of stuff going on this week for that. And generally things are good, but I better get to the gym a little bit more because I'm feeling like somebody who spent a few days in pajamas and not really doing much exercise.
Well, also you have been sick.
That is true. I've had a cold and that kept me out of the gym too. And I got to get my act together. Luckily, I got my 10K run in. Mm-hmm. I'd like to do a 10K run at least once a week. Kept it going. So that's good. So thanks everybody for joining us. We hope you enjoyed the show this week and we hope to see you again next week.
That is it for today's show. Please try and make wellness a priority.
You deserve it.
If you feel the need to talk to someone or ask for help, please do that.
Accept yourself for the person you are.
So long.
Adieu.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Goodbye.